Welcome to the deep dive, where we take those sources you provide and really get under the skin of the subject, pulling out the crucial knowledge and insights, presenting them directly to you for a quick but, thorough understanding.
And today we've got excerpts from a book that's, well, it's quite something, Sex Book by Martin Goldstein.
It really is. Diving into this, what immediately jumps out is just how upfront it is, especially for a book meant for young people and their parents back then.
That's right. I mean, talking openly about sex, it
Yeah.
just wasn't the norm, was it?
Not at all. This isn't like tiptoeing around anything. The book's aiming for, well, a real dialogue, not just between sexes, but between generations, too.
Yeah, trying to dismantle some of that fear and guilt maybe, replace it with understanding of healthier attitude. That seems to be the goal.
Quite an ambition, and you can tell the authors felt that there was a real need. They saw young people were often, left scrambling for info.
Unreliable info, often, or just incomplete. They specifically say they wanted to help parents give their kids a solid sex education.
Which brings us to the context, the backdrop. It's fascinating they directly address the Federal Commission on Obscenity and Pornography's recommendations.
Right. So this wasn't just some, niche idea. There was a wider push, a societal call for better sex ed.
And this book really seems to answer that call, doesn't it?
It does. It champions accepting sex as natural, healthy. Um, Embraces a kind of pluralism of values, not just one rigid view.
And insists on facts, not just biology, but the whole picture, social, psychological, even religious aspects. Pretty comprehensive for its day.
Hmm.
And the structure they used is pretty distinctive, too. It's not typical chapters, is it?
No, it's almost like an encyclopedia, hundreds of entries. So you can just, look up exactly what you're wondering about.
Which allows for really specific definitions and explanations.
Exactly. And they're careful to define terms, but also place them in context. Historically, socially, it's not just what, but why and how society saw things.
And then the really bold move,
Mm.
the explicit photographs.
Yeah, that must have raised some eyebrows. They knew it was unconventional, even potentially shocking.
So why do it? Their reasoning is actually, well, pretty compelling.
It is. They argued that kids learn visually, and hiding realistic images just breeds suspicion. The hypocrisy of saying sex is okay, but being afraid to show it.
Strong point that well-chosen images used responsibly actually prevent embarrassment rather than cause it.
Accurate visual info for a visual generation, it all ties back to putting the facts of sex in that broader social perspective.
Right. The intro even mentions entries on women's social position, sexual emancipation movements, theological developments.
Yeah, so definitely not just a biology textbook. It's trying to connect the dots between sex and, well, everything else.
Okay, so let's dive into some of these concepts, starting with abnormal.
Right, and their definition is basically just different. Different from what's familiar or customary.
But they immediately add that crucial caveat, don't they? That being different isn't automatically illness.
Exactly. You need a professional diagnosis for that. It avoids pathologizing everything outside a narrow norm.
Very important distinction. Then, abortifacient.
The book's quite clear here, says there's no known safe oral medication to cause an abortion.
And those common myths, like hot baths or injuring oneself, it says they're harmful and don't work.
Mm-hmm. Reflects the medical knowledge then and flags the dangers of unsafe attempts.
Which leads straight into abortion. They distinguish unintentional termination miscarriage, essentially from intentional termination of an unwanted pregnancy.
And they acknowledge the complexity. Social, medical, legal, moral implications.
Hmm.
It's all in there.
And crucially, it talks about the dangers of illegal abortions and the move towards liberalization in many states back then.
Yeah, even pointing people towards Planned Parenthood for information. It's trying to be practical, supportive.
Okay, moving to abstinence. It outlines different reasons, right? Voluntary, forced, or fear-based.
Yes, and it notes that while public morality demanded it for unmarried people,
The reality was likely quite different. A very realistic observation.
it is. It goes beyond just stating a rule and looks at the actual difficulties it could cause for young people, single adults, homosexual individuals. It shows a real understanding of human complexity.
And it even touches on how masturbation fits in, or doesn't, depending on viewpoint. Some saw it as a release, though the book notes it's still limited compared to connection.
Right, exploring different coping mechanisms when intercourse isn't happening.
Let's switch gears a bit. Physical stuff,
Acne.
described as, inflammatory skin thing, puberty, hormones. Harmless, mostly, but can make you self-conscious.
And the key point they make.
No link whatsoever to sexual activity. Zero.
Which was probably important, phew, to debunk those old myths.
Absolutely. Separating fact from fiction around puberty was crucial.
Speaking of which, adolescence. The book frames it as more cultural than biological.
Yeah, focusing on the big challenges.
Yeah.
Independence, figuring out sexuality, and they link that to their entries on abstinence, masturbation, premarital sex.
Oh.
Plus career, education choices, finding meaning. That's a lot for one stage of life.
It really captures the pressure cooker of adolescence, the conflicting poles, figuring yourself out.
And it highlights the need for understanding adults, and again, good sex ed.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's adultery, defined simply as intercourse with someone else's spouse.
But they add that interesting bit about some religious views being broader, like any sex outside marriage.
And the really sensible point that non-sexual things can damage a marriage just as much.
Mm.
Neglect, selfishness.
That's a good point. Fidelity is more than just physical, isn't it? It's emotional investment, respect.
And we have ambisexual and ambisexuality.
Right, meaning attraction to both sexes. The book points out it's often used interchangeably with bisexual, which can cause confusion.
Yeah, it shows an early awareness of like the spectrum of attraction, needing clear terms, even if the terms themselves were still evolving.
Definitely. An attempt to grapple with that complexity.
On sexual acts, anal intercourse, defined very factually,
Yeah, stresses it's down to the partner's judgment, their agreement.
and explicitly says it's not a perversion, though illegal in most places at the time.
Again, that focus on consent between adults, pretty progressive, non-judgmental.
Moving to desire. Aphrodisiacs.
Ah, yes, the magic bullets, which the book pretty much dismisses.
Right. It says no food or drink can create love, though some might affect physical reactions slightly. Blood flow, inhibitions maybe?
But the real aphrodisiac, an attractive partner and the relationship itself.
Very grounded. Shifts focus from external fixes to the dynamic between people.
And that bit about an aphrodisiac substances supposedly decreasing desire, possibly stemming from a fear of controlled sexuality, that's quite insightful.
It really is. Okay, a big one.
Yeah.
Birth control.
Defined as planning or preventing pregnancy. Then it details the methods available then.
The rhythm method, the pill, diaphragms, caps with spermicide, sterilization.
And it makes a point of saying abortion is not a method of birth control, a key distinction.
Right? Preventing versus terminating. And the descriptions of the methods gave people real options.
But the bigger point they make is how birth control changed the meaning of sex, didn't it?
Hugely. Separating it from procreation. New freedoms, but also new responsibilities.
And they acknowledge the controversy, especially around young people getting access, and that tension with the traditional sex is only for babies' view.
While also pointing out that places like Planned Parenthood and college clinics were starting to provide services. It captures that societal shift.
Absolutely. A pivotal moment, and the book is right there grappling with it.
And bisexual and bisexuality. It grounds this biologically, which is interesting.
Yeah, talking about how everyone starts with characteristics of both sexes embryonically and adult remnants like nipples on men, clitoris penis equivalents.
And saying masculinity, femininity are largely social constructs. Then clarifying the confusion with ambisexual.
It's quite forward-thinking for the time, challenging rigid binary views.
Okay, puberty. Physical changes listed: body shape, hair, voice, first erections, ejaculations, menstruation, acne.
Increased body awareness, needing more sleep, all that.
But again, emphasizes it's more cultural than just biological. The stress comes from our culture denying readiness for sex.
That cultural lens is so important. Biology is universal, but how society reacts makes all the difference for teens.
Then we hit some older terms. Buggery.
Old term for anal intercourse.
Calendar method.
Just a rhythm method.
Call girl.
Well, modern for then type of prostitute using the phone.
And caressa, or coitus reservatus.
Intercourse with minimal movement after penetration, held for a long time. Glimpses into changing language and practices.
Defines Casanova based on the historical figure devoted to courting women. Suggests continuous courtship keeps things exciting.
Contrasted later with Don Juan, the compulsive seducer, only interested in conquest. Different male archetypes.
Interesting comparison. Castration, removal of sex glands, infertility, hormonal changes.
But distinct from sterilization, an effect on sex drive uncertain, clarifies a misunderstood term.
Childhood sexuality, described as diffuse, lacking adult modesty or inhibitions. Interest in genitals, bodily functions.
Mentions the Oedipus complex, affection for parents. And gender identity, developing gradually through experience and adult reactions, reflects the psychoanalytic thinking of the day.
Circumcision, noted as common in the U.S. then? Benefits debatable beyond preventing later issues, no impact on sexual abilities.
Just a straightforward, neutral take on it.
Climacteric, or menopause,
Right.
gradual end of reproductive capacity in women usually late 40s, but sexual power is not necessarily affected.
Also mentions a possible, less pronounced male climacteric, acknowledges aging changes in both sexes.
Coitus interruptus, withdrawal. Simple but unreliable and often unsatisfying.
A realistic view of a common but flawed method.
Communal living gets a mention experiments in shared living. Lower costs, more free time, different historical models.
Reflects the social experimentation happening then.
Conception, just the beginning of pregnancy. Condom, how it works, prevents STDs, proper use. Continence sometimes means abstinence. Contraception, prevention of conception. Birth control becoming more common. Conventions, social rules like dating.
Just clear definitions of fundamental terms.
Crush, that sudden, intense adolescent attachment, maybe not sexual, often unrealistic, usually fades.
But important for emotional development, understanding attraction, captures that teen intensity perfectly.
Cunnilingus, licking, sucking female genitals, called a common activity many women enjoy.
But then notes it was illegal in most states, highlighting that gap between private life and public law.
Shows the book's willingness to discuss things openly, despite legal oddities. Dating, appointment-based socializing, courtship, common U.S. practice, rituals, social skills, partner selection.
Defloration, rupture of hymen, loss of virginity. Traditionally the wedding night, double standard noted. Links it to women as property, needing proof of purity.
Right. And deviation is just cross-reference to aberration. Covers social rituals and the problematic history of virginity concepts. Diaphragm, mechanical barrier for women, used with spermicide. Safe, fairly cheap, pretty effective.
Don Juan, again the contrast with Casanova. Compulsive seducer, conquest only, unable to form real relationships.
Drug dependence, psychological reliance. Doesn't fix lack of human contact. Drug becomes a substitute, even for sex. Legalization wouldn't solve the core issue.
Touches on related behaviors and choices.
Ejaculation, sudden release of semen during orgasm, spontaneous wet dreams or deliberate. Notes typical puberty onset age. Debunks pre-intercourse masturbation as reliable birth control.
Emancipation, striving for independence, participation in decisions. Young people, homosexuals. Needs cooperation, respect. Authority earned. Participation means responsibility.
Important concepts, physical development, and social justice.
Erection, the physiology. Swelling, stiffening of penis from blood flow. Similar process in clitoris, nipples. Needed for coitus. Impotence a concern if repeated.
Erogenous zones, sensitive areas, very individually, need discovery by partners.
Eros, Greek god of love. Symbolizes life, creativity, broader than just sex, then defines related terms. Erotic, erotica, etc.
Covers physiology and broader concepts of love.
An exhibitionist seeks arousal exposing genitals to strangers. Often needs medical help. Harm often exaggerated if there's good sex ed. Links to striptease elements.
Extended family discussed two ways. Traditional, multiple generations relatives, and modern communal households aiming to overcome nuclear family downsides.
Explores deviations and alternative family structures.
Family notes. Modern marriage often precedes family, outlasts it. Kids leave. Sex often for bonding now. Procreation, a choice via birth control.
Family planning, euphemism for birth control, especially for married couples.
Role of father, historically proof of manhood, provider, absolute authority. Changing with women's emancipation.
Reflects shifting family structures and roles.
Fear, sexual, can't be fixed by simple reassurance. Needs rational insight, patient-loving partners.
Fetus, unborn baby after third month.
Fidelity, marital, expected in monogamy. Adultery grounds for divorce. But personal disappointment often weighs more than legalities. Raises the question, is the marriage meeting needs?
Delves into emotional complexities, commitment.
First love, overwhelming, partner seems perfect, blind to flaws, rarely lasts intensely, can mature, rarely, or fades, influences future relationships, seen as immature later.
First sexual intercourse, historically the wedding night drama, now more relaxed but still potentially tense. Modesty, inexperience, fear, pregnancy pain, performance. Offers practical tips, tampon spetting ease insertion, excitement helps lubrication. Reassure that harmony takes practice.
Explores those powerful formative experiences.
Foreskin, movable skin on glands. Tightness, phimosis, might need circumcision, needs washing.
French kiss, open mouth, tongue contact. Notes French historically implied disapproval abnormality.
Friendship, different types. Group experiences foster it. Same opposite sex, unique qualities. Prestige, popularity factors. Can lead to romance marriage. Provides understanding, support, growth. Important always.
Covers anatomy, cultural attitudes, social connection.
Frigidity, woman's inability to orgasm, mostly psychological, needs professional help, can be mistaken for shyness and experience, not infertility.
Fun morality, modern term for hedonism.
Gay, slang for homosexual. Gay liberation, radical emancipation movement.
Genital intercourse relating to genitals, coitus.
Genitals, sex organs. Determine sex, produce hormones, key in arousal, satisfaction, procreation. Close to excretory organs.
Suggests function, social movements, terminology.
Golden wedding anniversary, 50 years. Notes longer lifespans mean longer marriages, changing meaning of marriage fidelity. Middle-aged elderly still have sexual interests. Capacity depends on attitude health, not just age. Different character than younger relationships.
Gonorrhea, common STD, usually via intercourse, bacterial. Symptoms often obvious in men, burning, discharge, may be absent initially in women. Easily curative treated. Untreated leads to complications.
Sterility.
No immunity after cure. Babies can be infected at birth.
Group sex intercourse with multiple partners. Communes, swingers, etc. Existed historically, more open now. Generally disapproved due to monogamy norm, but part of sexual imagination, accepted in some cultures.
Covers milestones, STIs, diverse practices.
Hairstyle length doesn't indicate character sexuality. Some religious links. Long hair for Western women, a social convention.
Homosexuality disposition leading to behavior. A spectrum, not clear-cut. Hard to define the person, easier to define acts. Exclusive homosexuals have no more choice than heterosexuals. Awareness, often post-puberty, causing conflict problems. Psychoanalysis rarely leads to change if desired. Success usually alleviating guilt despair. Adjustment. Psychological issues, mostly due to societal reaction, hinders lasting relationships, leads to promiscuity. Relationships can express tenderness, love like heterosexual ones. Love object is the whole person, not a perversion. Discusses traditional Judeo-Christian condemnation, some churches modifying views, but uneasiness remains. Expert support for civil rights, laws repealed elsewhere, recommended in U.S., but public ignorance opposition persist. Illegal in some U.S. states, varied penalties.
That's a very thorough entry. Covers orientation, society, history, law. Really comprehensive.
It really is. Okay, hooker slang, female prostitute.
Hormones produced by endocrine glands, vital for development health. Sex hormones, testicles, ovaries, control sexual characteristics, fertility, drive reactions. Both androgens, estrogens present in both sexes.
Husband, male marriage partner.
Hustler, male prostitute, often gay. Heterosexual, sometimes stud.
Hygiene, science of health. Also euphemism for cleaning female genitals, tampon use, deodorants.
Just straightforward definitions here.
The hymen thin membrane partially covering vagina opening. Rupture often seen as proof of virginity, but inconclusive. Other causes can be absent. High value placed on it is a relic of women as property. Double standard.
An illegitimate child born to unmarried mother. Social disapproval, disadvantages, financial, care, prejudice. Worse without family help adoption. Links to need for birth control, double standard.
Infertility, sterility, inability to procreate. Male, impotence, castration, sterilization, sperm issues, or female, castration, sterilization, ovary issues, disease after effects. Can have subtle or unknown causes.
Inhibitions, sexual, learned early. Too strong can hinder development maturity. Fear, aversion, disgust, odd interest, inability to love. Need help if impair relationships effort fails. Unrecognized ones can cause depression, instability, physical issues.
Inversion, older term, sometimes used for homosexuality.
IUD, intrauterine device for contraception.
Covers anatomy, social stigma, reproduction, psychology.
Jus premi noctis, right of the first night. Supposed feudal lords' right to deflower serfs' brides existed late in some places. Mozart's Figaro example.
Kiss, touching with lips. Expression of respect, friendship, love, Western culture. Other customs exist. Nose rubbing. Many reasons conventions. Between partners. Wide range, light touch to French kiss, mouth erogenous, lip-tongue contact intense, stimulating, feelings influenced by context.
Explores historical practices and cultural intimacy expressions.
Libido, psychoanalytic term, basic sexual urge, develops in stages. Narcissism, childhood, towards parents, Oedipus, then other subjects' ideas, sublimation.
Loop, another term for IUD.
Love, associated with friendship, desire, tenderness, passion, intercourse. Relates to basic needs. Greek-Roman concept emphasized sex drive from lover, object made desirable by love felt, love frustrated if unaccepted but not disappointed. Modern concept shaped by history society. Cautions against just following media models. Develop personal contacts.
Love potions, the aphrodisiac.
Delves into psychoanalytic theory and evolving concepts of love.
Lubricants facilitate penis insertion, if insufficient natural secretion, and needed for anal intercourse. Saliva simplest, commercial products Vaseline KY. Some condoms pre-lubricated.
Man, adult, human, male, also collective for humans. Biological differences historically used for social roles, male dominance. Concepts of masculinity, femininity changing with women's emancipation. Men may lose social dominance but gain cooperation, less battle of sexes.
Marriage, official aspect, legal contract, rights obligations, private decision for permanent sexual relationship. Long-term relationships often feel like marriage emotionally, even if not legal, lack of recognition constraint. Evaluation needs psychological, social, religious, legal, economic consideration for individual decision. Marriage doesn't auto-equal family. Family can be episode within marriage. Marriages last longer now, golden anniversary common. Meaning evolving with social tech shifts.
Covers practicalities, gender roles, evolving marriage concepts.
Masochism need pain hurt for sexual satisfaction, perversion. Masochist enjoys humiliation, hurt, abuse.
Masturbation, self-stimulation to orgasm. Mutual masturbation too. Simplest, most common sexual activity, all ages, sexes. Children explore bodies. Young people often lack intercourse opportunity.
A matriarchy society where women hold power, replaced by patriarchy historically.
Maturity, fully developed state. Lengthy human process, many factors. Physical maturity, puberty, often perceived mental-emotional. Judge individually, no fixed rules for readiness, sex, marriage, parenthood.
Addresses psychology, common behaviors, social structures, development.
The menstrual cycle biological process between periods. Menstruation, period, periodic discharge, blood materials from mature female reproductive organs can have physical discomfort.
Minor, legally under 21, adulthood 22 here. Legal restrictions, liquor, jobs, jury, parental control. Varies by state, marriage age, consent age, statutory rape if under.
Modesty, sense of propriety, body sex exposure discussion. Varies with familiarity, culture, age. Small kids like it. Modesty helps social adjustment. Total lack or exaggeration, prudery, can be emotional disorder.
Covers biology, legal status, social norms around privacy, sexuality.
Monogamy, one man, one woman marriage. Most accepted globally. Law prevents multiple spouses, divorce, remarriage, excessive polygamy. Challenges idea of men naturally polygamous, women monogamous, double standard. Also questions claim all humans naturally polygamous. Promiscuity, unlikely, fully satisfying, sex linked to deeper needs.
Mother, crucial role in early childhood, present scare. Biological capacity, historically defined women's role, changing with emancipation. Child decision, shared responsibility with father. Procreation, sexuality, distinct.
Explores marriage forms, challenges gender roles, distinguishes procreation intimacy.
Narcissism, unconscious self-fixation desire for own body. Narcissist legend. Normal in early childhood, self-satisfaction. In adulthood, emotional immaturity, a cooperation for deep relationships. Modest narcissism, self-care, healthy.
Natural childbirth technique, reducing pain via procreation participation. Dr. G.D. Reed. Resistance, fear-banked attention, major pain cause, possibly guilt resentment linked. Proper instruction, planning, birth control, understanding cooperation make birth shared positive experience. Many hospitals encourage husband's presence.
Addresses psychological development and childbirth approaches.
New morality versus old morality. Old based on absolute divine norms, obedience or rebellion. New is relativistic, considers consequences, scientific knowledge, understanding, tolerance versus rigidity. New gaining ground, suits changing world, more liberty, creativity, encourages responsibility in relationships.
Nocturnal emission, wet dream, ejaculation during sleep, sexual dream.
Nuclear family, parent-children only, result of tech social changes, individual freedom, privacy. Disadvantages, cost, parental role separation, father work, mother home, enhances male privilege, potential sexual problems.
Explores evolving ethics, physiology, family structures.
Nudism movement for natural life, open-air exercise without clothes. Private club scamps, rejects clothing as unhealthy modesty, fear of body. Believes nudity makes people beautiful, relaxed, humane. Hypocrisy, sincerity debated, matter of taste.
Nudity reveals body as attractive, vulnerable. Observer impression depends. Stage nudity, cabaret, aims for eroticism, shock.
Nymphomaniac, woman with constant, extreme, irrepressible desire for sexual satisfaction, often falsely applied to women with strong affection needs, may be symptom of psychological disorder, existence doubted by some, possibly male fantasy, double standard.
Touches on body acceptance movements, perception of nudity, problematic labels.
Obscene, violates prevailing sexual propriety standards. No general agreement on standards of violations. Debate. Art scholarship obscene.
Oh,
Defining art difficult. Suggests leaving to individuals, don't force taste. Questions need for police protection.
Oedipus complex, psychoanalytic concept, unconscious crisis in child sexual development, shapes later intimacy ability.
Oldest profession, euphemism for prostitution.
Onanism, old term for coitus interruptus, sometimes masturbation.
Oral intercourse, mouth of one, genitals of other. Cunnilingus, fellatio.
Covers legal social concepts, psychoanalytic theory, older terms.
Orgy, originally festive gathering, uninhibited behavior and coastal sexual. Now mostly negative connotation, reflects changed attitude, guilt, secrecy. Negative attitude from social cultural factors, not sexuality itself.
Orgasm, climax of sexual excitement, subjective experience, physiological reactions, muscle tension release, increased heart breathing. Intensity duration varies. Men usually one orgasm ejaculation, then relaxation. Women capable of multiple orgasms.
Ovulation release of egg from ovaries in mature woman, usually every 28 days. Slight rise in body temp.
Ovum, egg, female reproductive cell. Ovaries have thousands, few hundred involved in reproductive life. One ripens every 28 days, ovulation. Fertilization starts pregnancy, discovered 19th century.
Covers evolution of attitude, sexual climax, female reproduction.
Patriarchy, social system. Men hold primary power, predominant, politics, etc., have sexual privilege. Masculinity, femininity concepts reinforce it. Attempts to compensate women, Mother's Day, seen as insincere. True sexual equality needed. Most Western countries still patriarchal. Young child education, largely female domain, not ideal. Matriarchal cultures existed historically.
Perversion, everyday language. Strange, disgusting, unfamiliar sex acts people. Clinical view, compulsive, exclusive, destructive sexual behavior with guilt, anxiety, inability to relate to partners as persons, meet needs, adapt behavior, love, ritualistic repetition of frustrating acts like addiction. Sufferers are sick, need help. Examples: sadism, masochism, fetishism, exhibitionism, voyeurism, transvestism, pedophilia, gerontophilia, coprophilia, zoophilia, bestiality, necrophilia. Many occur within marriage. Lack of cooperation may lead to seeking relief elsewhere, prostitutes, or public indecency. Some fetishism satisfy without partners.
Explores power structures in the complex realm of paraphilias.
Polygamy, marriage, two partners, usually one man, multiple wives, sometimes polyandry. Monogamy, legal form here. Some feel should be universal but can't impose overnight where it's tradition. Social structure change needed. Conversion to Christianity causes moral problems for polygamous husbands, choosing one wife, others unsupported. Child custody issues. Monogamy, not just Christian Western, demanded by non-Westerners for sexual equality. Transition difficult, needs tact tolerance.
Pornography, hard to define. Intended to stimulate sexual excitement, experts agree. Effects debated, harmful versus beneficial. Definitions, restrictions vary by time culture, strict Soviet Union versus minimal Sweden, Denmark. U.S. varied laws challenged, hesional, erection visibility. Male nudity often seen as more pornographic than female, reasons unclear supremacy, fear of homosexuality. Uneasiness depicting sexual pleasure, only okay if redeemed by social value, reflects prudery.
Covers marriage forms across cultures and the complexities of pornography.
Premarital intercourse, sex before marriage. Term oversimplifies, engaged versus not, intent to marry. Today, often in stable, affectionate relationships, not necessarily leading to marriage, expression of friendship, increased opportunities. Despite tolerance can create problems. Guilt, family social pressure, pregnancy risk, double standard, applying marriage standards to free love, sharply divided opinions, abstinence versus natural.
Premature ejaculation orgasm sooner than man desires. Frustrating. Mostly psychological causes. Professional treatment helps, Henjum seam and squeeze technique.
Prepuce medical term, foreskin. Prophylactic, see condom.
Addresses common behaviors, social implications, sexual health concerns.
A prostitute engages in sex for money, female, male. Sex is business, usually no emotional involvement. Accommodate many customers. May not show affection, special requests cost more. Generally use contraception, ask clients wear condoms. Some infertile, BDs. Often easy money. Some have underdeveloped capacity for contact love. Some female prostitutes hate men. Some leave for marriage, motherhood.
Prostitution, engaging in sex for money, most common. Female, brothels, streets, sharing income with pimps management. Call girls, take appointments. Male prostitutes, hustlers, studs, may work as companions, masseurs, models, or street-based.
Puberty, again, early teens. Stressful in our culture, physical readiness denied unlike some other cultures.
Insights into sex work realities and puberty's cultural context.
Includes a section on reliability of birth control methods. Lists methods, approximate pregnancy rates, pill very low, IUD low, condom diaphragm moderate, rhythm withdrawal high. Effectiveness varies.
The Rh factor, antigen in blood, most positive. Antibodies develop in Rh-negative person getting Rh-positive blood. Problems for Rh-negative mother with Rh-positive baby. Mother's antibodies affect later pregnancies, usually controlled medically, so Rh-negative women can marry Rh-positive men.
The rhythm method, calendar basal temperature, birth control via abstinence during fertile period, before, during, after ovulation. Fertile days estimated by calendar, tracking cycles, or basal temp provides calendar calculation details.
Romance. Romantic love affair. Product of Christian West, Middle Ages, chivalry, courtly love, initially non-sexual, separate from marriage. Idea of romantic love for marriage developed later. Industrial Revolution romanticism. Personal choice and partner selection changed family structure.
Provides info on reproductive health and the cultural history of romantic love.
Satisfaction. Satisfaction of the whole person. Needs personal contact, love, tenderness, not just urge release. Prolonged lack creates problems. Abstinence.
The scrotum pouch holding testicles. Skin is erogenous zone sensitive.
Semen. Thick white liquid ejaculated. Millions of sperm. Quantity, not indication of potent fertility.
Sex appeal, sexy.
Sex books cover sexual matters. Literature like Satyricon, studies like Kinsey, Masters, and Johnson, erotic like Kama Sutra, sex marriage manuals, can help rediscover potential after prudery, but sexual problems usually psychological, not solved by technique. Love Technique, best sex book, secondary advice, main source of happiness is emotional maturity, responsive partners.
Covers holistic satisfaction, anatomy, value of sex lit, importance of connection.
Sex education, integral to life, related to total experience, health, identity, social adjustment. Helps people handle sexuality creatively. Many youth programs, superficial biological, neglect, emotional social, every child sexual from birth. Denial suppression affects development, doesn't ensure maturity love perversion possible. Child's growth influenced by parents' attitudes, behavior, sex each other. Conditioning continues through puberty, positive and negative, unavoidable. Choice, good or bad sex ed. Church's vital role in ethics, overcome reluctance for open discussion. Not one institution's job, cooperation needed. Best programs face realities, parent embarrassment, moral objections. Needs expansion beyond schools to colleges, future leaders, professionals, doctors, teachers, for understanding social implications.
A strong case for comprehensive sex ed as fundamental, multifaceted approach needed.
Sexism, attitude philosophy, using sexual differences for social discrimination. Double standard, matriarchy, patriarchy.
Sex legislation. U.S. states vary wildly. Offenses, severity. Terminology confusing pre-scientific varies. Hard to describe accurately. Examples. Sodomy, vague. Anal sex, masturbation, zoophilia, necrophilia in some states ignores modern knowledge. Crimes against nature, similarly vague, implies nature, victim, mystical versus scientific. Authorities might advise unnatural practices. Punishments often severe, up to life.
Sex manual, marriage manual, teaches married couples intercourse, often coital positions. Popular necessary when sex ed lacking. Sometimes gave false impression of complex technique, belief in acrobatic sex needed.
Highlights sexism, legal inconsistencies, role of info resources.
Sex offenses, 2 groups, with victims, force, minors, and consenting adults in private. Crimes without victims like prostitution, oral anal sex, mutual masturbation, unmarried homosexual intercourse. Authorities believe imprisonment without treatment harmful. Perversions often involve compulsion, responsibility questions. Even harmless perverts, exhibitionists, voyeurs should get treatment. Crimes without victims majority guilty if law is enforced. Impossible, selective enforcement, injustice, hypocrisy, blackmail, bribery, bad police practices.
Sexual development begins at conception, biosex, continues after birth, gender identity influenced by parent society. Puberty, physical readiness, psychological changes, detachment, attraction. Needs adult explanation, encouragement.
Sexual dream with sexual content feelings. Can lead to nocturnal emission.
Sexual emancipation efforts to overcome restrictions, homosexuals, young people.
Delves into legal ethical complexities, development, sexual freedom efforts.
Sexual ethics, moral principles for sex behavior. Old morality, absolute rules, often religious. New morality, relative, based on love, concern, consequences. Churches play a role in foundation.
Sexual intercourse. Physical contact, excitement, satisfaction, specifically penis and vagina. No single valid standard. Character determined by partner's attitude, stimulation, orgasm, male orgasm, ejaculation, next relaxation, women capable of multiple. Intercourse doesn't have to start foreplay and coitus. Other contact valid, mutual masturbation, derogatory. Everything increasing excitement is part. Source of pleasure or expression of deep relationship.
Also addresses sexual intercourse during pregnancy can continue unless pain bleeding. Find comfortable position, side, often good. Late pregnancy orgasm, coitus masturbation, may initiate labor. Ask physician. Stop if membranes rupture, infection risk.
Covers ethics, provides inclusive view of intercourse, including pregnancy context.
Sexuality, instinct, drive, tension-seeking gratification, ways influenced by bioculture, historically linked to procreation restrictions, abstinence, taboos, integral to life, can't be suppressed. Birth control broke procreation link, implications not fully understood sexual revolution. Sex ed dispute reflects this. Traditional patriarchal values need new approaches, partnership equality. Sex no longer solely procreation, intercourse own importance, communication pleasure, family not sole marriage purpose, non-marital sex needn't follow marital patterns. Genital intercourse not only right activity or anal can be appropriate, laws obsolete.
Sexual roles, socially defined expectations, behaviors based on sex. Our patriarchal society encourages male dominance, masculinity, female submissiveness, femininity, rules learned reinforced, presented as natural to prevent transgression, punishing deviant.
Comprehensive look at sexuality's nature, context, linked to procreation, and socially constructed roles. Advocates for equality.
69 oral intercourse. Partners simultaneously stimulate genitals. Body position resembles 69.
Single adult not married. Historically, unmarried status due to customs regs seen as necessary. Adjusted, extended family helped. Today, more marry. Single, often seen as voluntary choice. Expectation of abstinence, escape from married partner's suspicion. Single women miss. Lower status than misses, though often more informed and active.
Sodomy, formerly anal intercourse, men, women, animals. From biblical Sodom, destruction attributed, interpretation disputed. Sodomite sodomy expressed disgust and unfamiliar, used indiscriminately like perversion, term becoming obsolete, unscientific.
Spermatozoa, sperm cells, male reproductive cells, testicles, part of semen, millions per ejaculation, survive in uterus tube several days.
Spermicides, vaginal products, jellies, creams, foams, tablets, suppositories for birth control. Used before intercourse, kill sperm, sometimes with diaphragm condom. Available without prescription, doctor's instructions advised for effectiveness. If failure, baby unaffected.
Covers specific acts, social attitudes, problematic terms, biology, contraception.
Sterilization, voluntary. Men, vasectomy, closing sperm tubes, infertility without impotence, usually final. And women, tubal ligation. Most effective birth control, legal all U.S. states, appropriate limited cases, irreversible.
Streetwalker, female prostitute soliciting on street.
Stud, male prostitute, often heterosexual.
Syphilis, lose. VD, almost always intercourse, rare via objects. Mother to unborn child transmission possible. Stages, primary chancre, secondary rash, latent tertiary serious damage. Early stages curable quickly, untreated severe disability death. Reliable protection. Avoid infected partners. Wash-douche condoms, partial protection only.
Taboo, religious, legal, social, political, sexual prohibition. Number character change. Defining characteristic. Lack of reason justification. Asking why is violation. Challenges scientific inquiry. Desire to question, understand. Eliminating all doesn't abolish all prohibitions. Rational ones strengthened by science lose taboo status. Liberation not from blindly breaking, but understanding reasons' importance to others, questioning own motives.
Covers permanent contraception, sex work terms, STIs, nature of taboos.
A tampon absorbent material for menstrual flow inserted into vagina. Various size absorbencies.
Tenderness, important for creating, conveying acceptance. Sign of respect concern. Most intense form between humans, often sexual intercourse.
Testicles, male sex glands, scrotum, produce hormone as sperm, correspond to ovaries. Loss of one doesn't eliminate potency.
A transsexual person wanting to be opposite sex.
Transsexualism, sex change.
Yeah.
Tendency to want sex changed, surgery possible sometimes, appropriateness for hermaphrodites seeking identity. Biological sex usually clear cellularly, genitals less so. Hormone surgery establish physical identity. Wish for change can occur with clear biosex, causes difficulties. Gender role, social biological, so hormone surgery alone, not genuine change.
Transvestism, sexual gratification wearing opposite sex clothes, usually men wearing female cross-dressing, maybe fetishistic, excitement tied to clothes, not necessarily linked to homosexuality or desire for sex change.
Covers hygiene, emotions, anatomy, gender identity complexities.
Twins, 2 offspring, same pregnancy, identical 1 egg, fraternal 2 eggs, identical same-sex resemblance, fraternal can differ, multiple births from multiple eggs released fertilized. Hard to determine early, X-rays avoided, often born earlier.
Unnatural sex, old-fashioned term disapproval, meaning varies, non-procreative, unfamiliar. Some religious legal codes equate with crime against nature sodomy. Some see nothing as unnatural. Everything exists in nature. Pain, disease is natural as pleasure. Only unnatural is non-existent and performable, scientific view. Descriptive, not moral.
The uterus, womb, hollow muscular organ, female pelvis, fetus develops. Connected to tubes, ovum entry, cervix opens to vagina, sperm entry. Fertilized ovum implants develops embryo fetus, birth through vagina.
The vagina, internal female sex organ, muscular tube, vulva to uterus, opening below urethra may have hymen, functions, menstrual flow release, penis reception, baby delivery. Walls lubricated, acidic secretions, douches unneeded harmful, erogenous zone. Secretions increase with excitement, elastic walls contact, penis orgasm, sperm ejaculation into uterus. Woman can learn muscle control.
Covers reproduction, challenges old terms, describes female anatomy function.
Vasectomy, male sterilization, closing the deferens. Infertility without impotence, usually permanent, reversal not guaranteed.
Right.
Minor office procedure, local anesthesia, 100% effective, legal.
Venereal diseases, contagious, mainly intercourse from Venus, most dangerous common. Gonorrhea, syphilis. Others spread via intimate contact. Almost exclusively skin contact with infected partner usually affect contact organs first. Early gonorrhea, syphilis, easily curable. Untreated gonorrhea, sterility, syphilis, severe disability, death. Only reliable protection, avoid infected partners. Washing, douching, condoms, partial protection.
A virgin, sexually mature girl woman, no intercourse yet. Historically valued, hymen-proof, unreliable.
Virility sometimes means masculinity or male sexual potency.
A voyeur enjoys watching people undressing, masturbating, intercourse. Dependence for arousal satisfaction, voyeurism, perversion.
The vulva, external female genitals, outer inner lips, clitoris, urethra opening.
Or derogatory, female prostitute, wife, female marriage partner, withdrawal method. See coitus interruptus.
Woman, adult human female. Conception, birth capacity, historically defined role. Motherhood, excluding other potential. Emancipation, redefining roles relationships. Woman's decision on motherhood affects fatherhood concept. Shared responsibility makes procreation sexuality distinction clearer. Growing realization, women's influence, new interrelations, sexual equality progress ongoing.
And finally, a note on slang says a glossary is in the book to help young people understand professional terms.
Right, covering those last bits of terminology and reflecting on women's evolving roles.
So as we come up for air from this deep dive into sex book, some really key things stand out, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, for its time, this book was remarkably, well, progressive and honest in its approach to sex ed.
Totally committed to comprehensive factual information. Not just biology, but the social, the emotional,
Mm.
the whole picture.
And it really didn't shy away from challenging norms, did it? Advocating for open discussion, using those explicit visuals.
Yeah, and taking that non-judgmental stance on things like masturbation or even anal intercourse.
It's striking how much of its core message still resonates. You know, accepting sex as normal, natural, fostering understanding and communication. It really was ahead of its time in many ways.
Something that struck me was how it constantly tried to place sex in that wider social context. Gender roles, social movements, beliefs, acknowledging how they shape our experience.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't just about the mechanics.
And that encyclopedic format may be a bit unusual, but it really speaks to wanting to empower readers, right? Letting them find specific answers directly.
Very practical.
So here's a final thought to leave our listeners with. Thinking about how things have changed, or maybe haven't changed enough since this book came out, what would the sex book for today's young person look like? What would it need to cover? What challenges would it face now?
That's a great question. Really makes you think about the ongoing need for honest, comprehensive, and culturally relevant sex education today. The issues are still complex.
We'd love to hear what you think about this deep dive. Any aha moments? Any lingering questions? Feel free to share your thoughts as we all keep exploring this, well, endlessly complex topic of human sexuality. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.